Hello. I'm going to give it a minute to see who's online, who's joining us today, if anybody. And if no one's there at all, then I can go and get back to whatever it is that I was doing. You know what? I might just talk about other stuff then. Just because I know that for most of you who follow me are from North America, anyways, and you're probably waking up, going to your jobs, and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to give you a distilled version of what I was just talking about on Facebook. On Facebook, I run a series called the Hello Neighbor series, and that's basically when people just come together and just talk about stuff. Ideally, they end up asking me a lot of serious stuff anyway, but it's kind of a space where people can just talk about community and that kind of thing. So that's the series that's running on Facebook right now. And I figured, you know what, I might as well just check in to see, looking on the peeps in on YouTube land and see how they're doing and so on and so forth and everything. Um, but yeah, it's just been a really, really tough couple of days. I mean, a couple of years, but a couple of days, certainly. There's been a lot of shifts in the astrology, and people are just losing their minds, I gotta say. So it's not been an easy time for anyone. Um, Astrologically speaking, I'd say this is a definitely still the after effect of the major, whatchamacallit, Saturn Pluto conjunction that occurred in Capricorn on January the 12th. The Saturn Aries square that happened, I believe it was January the 26th. And in fact, right now we're seeing the moon having just conjuncted Eris, squaring Saturn and Pluto again and bringing up those same alignments. So, in some sense, it's no exaggeration to say that the fabric or firmament of our reality has been challenged and a lot has been stirred up in people. Ah, we have arrivals. Good, good, good. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in. I know it's a slightly takes a little bit of time to get this one going because it's the morning for a lot of you. I think most of you are from North America or that neck in the woods anyway. So let's say hi to Uma, James, Karen, Joyous Day, Cosmos Creations, Diana. Good afternoon. So probably Europe. So yes, hello everybody. So yeah, like I was saying, I have this thing that I do on Facebook called the Hello Neighbor series. We just check in, we just chill, we talk, and okay, okay, cool. Ruby's just joined. We talk. We just we have a discussion, which is hopefully not too heavy, if that is manageable. But yeah, this energy is still very much in the aftershock, the after impact of the whole Saturn Pluto conjunction, Saturn Eris square, and right now the Moon is just conjuncted Eris and is also squaring Saturn and Pluto again. So this is bringing up what got triggered in the first half of January. And really, January has, without exaggeration, felt like an entire year rolled into one. Um, I will talk more about some of the social justice and activism themes maybe in a different video. I want to keep this one rather light, but I can say that it's been a very trying and challenging time. So in Facebook land, when I did this live, people just ended up asking me questions of, practical questions. How do you cope with this kind of situation? Or how do you manage the darkness that's arriving in this kind of way? And that's the kind of questions I've been answering there. That doesn't mean this has to be the same in YouTube land. The audiences are a little bit different. But if you did have a pressing question, feel free to ask. This is your space to ask it. Less about looking at charts and whatnot, and more about just dealing with the current energies and so on. And as I'm waiting for comments, I'll just be talking about other things. So really, this is led and directed by those of you who are listening. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've certainly seen, whether it's in my inbox, whether it's in as responses to my work, there's been a lot of triggering that's happening in the world. And what I find very, very interesting is how people constantly want to project on me as being aggressive. Now, there are moments where I'm basically like, no, this does not stand. And most of the time, I'm like, yeah, no, not going to go with it. And people can't seem to tell the difference, which is okay. It's up to them. But in these times, it's just really, really important to know there's a difference between disagreement and disrespect. And that's a big theme that's coming up now because, astrologically speaking, of course, we got Black Moon Lilith now in Aries, and this is bringing up a lot of shadow for individuals, their ego selves, their identities. And this is where a lot of those opportunities come for each one of us to look at who we are, what baggage we are carrying, and what we don't want to look at in the mirror. If someone is very triggered by what you're saying, chances are you are bringing something up in them that they don't want to see. And this is the thing, it's very hard to tell the difference between an individual who is triggered out of ego reactivity and an individual who is speaking truth from a place of deep conviction. It's very, very wise not to confuse the two because that just adds to the muddle. I'll tell you something that's non-astro spiritual related. On this in Facebook land, I had one very hostile comment on the whole dramaturgy piece. This woman kept going, well, you're so smug and arrogant, and you think you're this and that because you got a PhD, and you feel entitled to be rude and abusive to white people, and blah, 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 blah. And I went back and I thought about this because that is the nature of the person I am. I just went, okay, we're going to do an experiment. And I did an experiment. I went into several spaces where I was speaking without any reference to who I was, without any reference to what I did. Very, very polite, very sweet, very gentle. But I kept going into those spaces and just saying no, that I disagreed with someone, that my perspective was not this way. I used every non threatening phrase in the book, and I got terrible results. I went on this very, very large kind of a fan page for nerds. It's called Nerds with Vaginas. And I took issue with a post that was kind of glorifying women who were psychologically unstable with an alcohol addiction. And I just kind of went, isn't this normalizing pathology? And the backlash I got, now I'm not whinging about it, honestly. I'm just saying the backlash that I got from people was insane. People kept telling me how it was their group and how I had to leave. And remember, this is a page on nerd culture. We're not even talking about big issues. And it was that same ganging up and bullying dynamic. It was all about how I was so triggered, so I had to go and I should look at myself. And I'm going, no, I'm just saying this is not an appropriate joke for anyone who's talking about nerd culture. So I persisted despite everybody trying to knock me off because I wanted to see if what this woman was saying was true. And here's the thing, because I am me and because I will articulate my points clearly, people started to agree. So I wrote to the admins and I said, hey, there's this discussion and it would be really good if you could, take a stand on this one way or another because this is a matter of health and safety. Because within nerd culture, there is this fetishization of the psycho girl or the girl who's kind of damaged. They sexualize it, they fetishize it, and that's also toxicity in its own way. And I was polite. I was like a bloody diplomat, okay? And they just went, wow, no, bye. And then, they took down they blocked me and deleted my post. And people who saw me speaking literally came up to me after that and just kind of went, oh, yeah, you really held your ground, which is great. There were some decent people there. But it was such a toxic, triggered crowd with such a powerful vibrational groupthink. And then I realized that what this person had told me was so wrong. The problem was not the way I was speaking. If I dared to disagree from the status quo, if I dared to say something that people didn't want to hear, it did not matter if I was saying it by yelling at the top of my lungs or if I was saying it really intensely without, being nice, or if I was just saying it, excuse me, could you think about this? It did not matter. They were so threatened, they took down my comments. They started bullying other people who had started raising the comments, and then eventually took down their posts as well, and then started laughing about how people got triggered by that. And it just showed me that people have changed a lot. And I know some people are standing up, rising up, and I'm so grateful for the allies who do, people who stand up in response to racism, sexism, transphobia, people who stand up in response to the many ills, the many blights that humanity is facing. I'm so grateful for all of you. And but despite that, I do see that generally speaking, there has been a huge societal shift. People have become comfortable with toxicity, people have become comfortable with pain, and they've learned to laugh about it and create a very strong in group culture that actually doesn't allow that energy to be shifted. So, and even those who try get shut down. I'm not saying that this was my analysis of this reflects reality because of this one instance. Another thing that happened was I was talking about this. Someone had made a very insensitive meme. Someone was basically making fun of Indian culture, the word namaste, and I took issue with it. I was again very polite. I was trying this out, and someone got so triggered they decided to call me an ape who was born with low intelligence and genetically inferior, and that I was a slave to all kinds of weird things. And I'm just sitting there looking at this, going, I'm not the problem here. And I tried it a couple of times, but it just didn't work. I realized very quickly that the whole angry black woman myth is just another means of silencing, and it's another means of trying to situate the issue back on the victims of it. I did do my research, I did do my test. I didn't let on anyone, didn't say anything about my background, went into these spaces and just spoke. And I can truly see how these words of love and light and peace and compassion that were once used to inspire are now really the tools of those who want to maintain the status quo. So that's what I've been learning for the past few days. And in some sense, it has been disheartening, but on the other sense, I've spoken up so much about it that people are also seeing the same patterns around them, and they are also challenging it, because it's hard to wrap your head around how words like forgiveness and peace and joy are being twisted in such powerful ways. I also found people who were suddenly claiming to claiming that they were indigenous just to score cheap cultural points. I look on their profile and I don't see a single damn thing about indigeneity. It's just a white person standing there and, you know, sharing memes about astrology and new age stuff. It's so painful when someone of a different culture sees their culture being worn like a skin. And this is also another feature of the whole triggering that Black Moon Lilith in Aries is bringing up. And I think there was something else that happened as well. Yes, I mentioned before I was doing research on the ceremony, so to speak, in Uluru on January the 12th. I got back the official statement, and there was no officially sanctioned ceremony. And I'm going to be writing to the elder that was involved in this to go and get their perspective before saying anything more publicly. What was happening was basically a private group who had invited an elder, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But the organizer of it started making such huge claims that involved an entire clan and the repairing of an entire planet, and people actually bought into it. And that too is another feature of the distortion that we're dealing with right now. We are not seeing people for who they are, we are not seeing truth for what it is. We are seeing it even more so through the lens of ego, ego, ego. Anyway, that was my as people are saying these days, that was my TED talk. Let me look at who else is here. So okay, Ruby says she is becoming an expat. Contracts complete. Peace out. Good for you. EA Satu has joined. Diana says hi from the UK. Oh God, you people are dealing with Brexit now. Solitary Empath says hello, doctor. Hello. Christine, hello, hello, hello. Caroline, hello to you in Holland. Ruby wants to know, did I find a place to live and how's my cat doing? Thank you for the question. I'm still struggling with the place to live thing. We found an interim place, probably going to be here for a couple of weeks, but we've still got to find somewhere that's good for us. And thank you all for your well wishes and for those of you who contributed to the kitties. I appreciate it a lot. It is one less thing for me to worry about. They are recovering, but they are not eating as much as they should. Unfortunately, Hanuki had a little bit of, well, not a little bit, she had a whole bunch of diarrhea the other day. It got all over me, and then I got diarrhea, and it was bad. But she is better. Hello, Yessie. Christian says, wise self-empowered woman is inspiring. Thank you. Okay, so Metro has a question. Metro has a question. What is the best way to deal with instances when one is triggered? It is not easy. Think of the other person as a human being. Like, I mean, there are different ways you handle with a trigger. Sometimes you want to know what a person really thinks, so you go with it. I've done that before. Sometimes you really love the person and you don't want to hurt them. So remember that there is a human being on the other side, and whatever the issue is, unless it's a life and death issue, it's probably something fixable. Going away, breathing, talking about it even a few minutes later, not in the immediate moment, is probably a good way to go. Lee asks if I've been successful in my search for colloidal silver for the cats. Not yet, Lee. I need to first settle a place to live. Sir Big Head says, don't change. I won't. um, okay, so Christine says sheeple mentality is on the rise. No offense to beautiful sheep. Yes, I agree. Cosmos Creation says 2020 we should stand for what we believe and not hold back. People show who they really are. I stand by that. Divine Warrior says, for some, wisdom from people of color is not possible. Your work is thought provoking. I love your work. Thank you very much. I have seen this. Black body, black face, brown body, brown face. The moment you say something that's triggering, you're already public enemy number one. Yessie says diplomacy is what she's been doing, but people have get okay. Yeah, actually, no, I see what you're saying. Sometimes diplomacy from a person of color is actually super triggering, and that is actually okay. I find that when people are, and a lot of the times people try to destabilize me or decenter me by saying things that they think I'm going to react with. If I'm getting angry with someone, if I'm reacting to someone, 99% of the time it's because it's a conscious choice. There are some instances where I really get angry, and that is, for example, when someone is claiming indigenous heritage. I mean, literally, I had a so called anthropologist today yell at me in my inbox, claim she was going to leave for 12 times, and then finally asked me what right I had to speak about Aboriginal people because there was no link between India and Australia, which A is genetically incorrect, B, she needs to look up linguistic connections as well, and C, I don't need to be an Indigenous person to speak up for Indigenous causes without taking away from their own centrality in their own narrative. And the fact is, I kept remaining firm, polite, but also very thorough. And she got even more triggered, so that is okay. When someone is triggered, not because you are being mean or you're being awful, but when someone is actually being triggered by you being a solid person, you have to accept that that is because they cannot accept you as solid, successful, powerful, and that is entirely on them. You cannot fix that. What I have realized through my social experiments the past few days is that literally um, doing what I'm doing is actually probably pretty radical. I've always been, you know, rebellious. I remember when, okay, I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea, but, you know, in Indian culture, obviously corporal punishment exists for kids. And so, you know, but sometimes you say it because you know the other person is kidding, right? So when I was a little itty bitty kid, I didn't want to do something, and one of my relatives said, "Really, I'm gonna go beat you up." And I just turned to that relative who was much older than me, an older man, and I just said, "You do that, and I'll call the cops." I was 5. I don't know where that instinct came from. But from then they realized, no, we're not gonna get through this one. Sometimes people are going to be threatened by your ability to stay centered, and there is nothing you can, should, or need to try to do about it. You be you. And if your strength and your compassion and your ability to be who you are is making another person go nuts, that is on them. Do not lessen yourself, do not lower yourself. I hope that answers your question, Yessi. Kyoya says greetings. Angelina says greetings. Greetings to you as well. Hey, 305 Capricorn. Hey, Carla. Hearts to Kelly. Buddhas and Butterflies says thank you for all your sharings. You're welcome. Diane says hi. Carla says hi from Toronto. Tamu Najina wishes me a good day, as I do you. Shifting Gears says hello from Virginia. And I got a hi from Pennsylvania, USA. Sunnyflower says hello, hello. Eileen from Ireland, hello to you. Stacy from New Jersey, hi to you. And yes, the cats are slowly recovering. One had diarrhea recently, but they're recovering. Lovely Sky Dancer says hello from Maine. And Yasmin says hello from Israel. Hello. How do you say hi in Jewish? I don't know. Type me the message. Josie says hi. Lovely Sky Dancer says people are triggered by the truth. Yes, they are. They really are. Buddhas and Butterflies say something similar. Solitary Empath says, as an empath, I trigger a lot of people. We all need to do our shadow work so that we may clear all the distortions that have been implanted into our psyche. I completely agree. Some of our triggers come through genetics, some come through past lives, some come through the programming that we've imbibed through culture and mass media. Jennifer Wilson, hello. Karen Dia, here we go. Few people can handle a person that is happy. They are so triggered. People only show up at the level of truth that they are at. Am I basically a happy person? When I'm not working, I am generally very chilled. Um, I am a nerd. I like nerd culture. I like movies. I like some computer games like Civilization, which I reinstalled recently. I'm very boring. I don't know about happy, but I think I'm pretty boring. I'm happy with my cat, and I like movies. Um, I guess yeah. I'm at my core. I'm basically a very calm person, ridiculously calm. But when I see something which I truly believe that I must speak on, then my namesake comes out. Basically, the name Bhairavi is actually the most fierce form of Kali there is. She is the form of Kali who is the absolute destroyer. And my parents did not know this when they named me, and I learned about it in my 20s. And I just kind of went, did you people know what you were doing? So when I'm actually not working, pretty boring, pretty calm, maybe a nice person, maybe, I don't know. But I like cookies and I like movies, so that's what I do. Margaret says hello from South Carolina. Hello, hello, hello. Yasmin, the word shalom. That's it. How did I forget that? Well, shalom to you. Israel is a country that I've always wanted to visit. I have very, very old memories from there. Unfortunately, my passport doesn't allow for it because Malaysia is technically a Muslim country. Someday, I hope that, if things align, if it's meant to be, I might visit. Mel sends me cute emojis of sparkliness. Thank you. Shifting Gears has asked, ooh, here we go. How do you handle non-awakening loved ones? Whoa. Well, that's a tough question. You can't. You really, really can't. Because everyone is on their soul journey, and what we call family is just what's happening in this life. And what we want to identify with as tribe is just what's happening in the here and now. Sometimes Your souls are just super different, even though your mind wants to constantly relate to it as a sense of shared community, shared identity, and so on. The thing is, you can't handle non-awakening loved ones. You can only accept them where they are, and you have to stay away from them if they are actively trying to keep you from awakening, because one of the biggest and most dangerous sources of attack for a spiritualist are the channels that come through the ancestral and genetic line and by close proximity. I suspect that was one of the reasons why the old sages just buggered off and went into the forests. Acceptance is what you can do. If they are deeply toxic to your process, then distance. And if they are not toxic to your process, what you can basically do is you just be you. Your vibration, just being yourself, is enough to trigger a reaction one way or another. So, either they will get it or they won't. So, the next question, Angelina, what would you recommend for a French child who is 11 having really risky behavior? It seems like possible. I don't want to say that word on air, but it seems like a foreign entity may be in. Honestly, if a child is showing behavior that cannot be explained by psychological or physical means, and I'm not talking about doctors suddenly going, well, it's a mental issue, but we don't know what it is. That's not a diagnosis, that's a cop out. Depending on that person's tradition, a priest, priestess, um, someone who works with things like that, to be honest. It really depends on their custom and on their tradition, because otherwise it's hard to know what way would be in. Solitary empath says peaceful. Yes. Honestly, most of the time when I'm by myself, like I said, boring as heck. Fitsum Davies sends a heart. Karen says awesome. That's enough to trigger them. It's the underneath energies they feel instinctively but don't recognize. Yep. Angelina says she's thinking of sending her away to boarding school. I think it'd be the worst if she doesn't treat the spirit. I agree with you. Reverb says it's hard when you live with them. I mean, I guess he mean, or they mean, uh, family who's non-awakened. Yes, it's super hard, and it's very hard to be estranged from your family. But if someone's in your way and are actively, toxically letting in other energies through back doors, you gotta make a call. Um, Love you. Sifting Gear says, love your truth, keep shining as you show I grow. Oh, that's nice. Namaste. Wild Lovely One says, much love from southern Spain. I'm just like you. I trigger people just for my presence. What I'm learning from you is to stand my ground when that happens and not dim my light when that happens. I'm grateful I'm able to teach that. Reverb says, good morning to all. Now, Cosmos Creations asks, can you tell us more about Lilith, her current transit? Okay, fine, fine, fine. Okay, so Black Moon Lilith in Aries, right? Black Moon Lilith is not even a real planet. It is a hypothetical point. But this is the thing about astrology. Hypothetical points like Black Moon Lilith, like the North Node and South Node, actually in some cases are more powerful than actual physical bodies. Lilith's transit is all about, how do I say this? Honestly, it's about the bad shit. It brings up all of those elements of dysfunction, projection, toxicity into the surface. And I don't see Lilith as a positive, but I see Lilith as someone who can show us, or rather trigger us to a situation where we either have to choose a path that resonates with truth or we have to go back to the drawing board. So she is a catalyst that will help us rise or fall, not because she's necessarily a nice energy. Her current transit in Aries is all about the nature of the self. It's all about the way we see ourselves. It's all about our presence in the world. So it's literally what we are talking about right now. And the thing to remember is that Lilith is at 0 degrees Aries right now, and Chiron is very, very close by. So we're going to be having a Lilith Chiron conjunction coming up real soon. And that is when shit is going to hit the fan. This year is going to be like that. It's not just one hit, it's multiple hits. So you need to know who is on your side. Who are the people who are willing to see you for who you are and not who they are afraid of you being, or not who they think you need to be to make them feel comfortable. You just need to be yourself. Some people would see Black Moon Lilith as a positive. It can be, like I said. It can certainly be a time where people who are traditionally marginalized are forced to represent themselves. Now, but even that can also go a little bit too far. There is social justice, there is the raw anger of social justice, but there is also when that anger in itself becomes absolute toxicity. Like for me, for instance, even if I'm very seriously arguing with somebody, I do not use foul language. I would not call them, I can't even say it, okay? That's how boring I am. At most, I might say the word fuck, but never to a person. But, there is a difference between being angry about something and just being flat out damaging and toxic. And people will use those words even when you're not. But Black Moon Lilith kind of blurs the distinction. She tries to get people to work through their wounds, but in ways that often almost always end up triggering them a lot more. So working with Lilith as a positive is a skill. All right, let's see. Dusty Whistle says, been taking to heart on reflection your last stream and taking to task a decolonial approach to whiteness and thinking about what that could mean in practice. Thank you for that and all your work. You are most welcome. When I have a bit more energy, I'll be looking back at that. Angelina says, many thanks. Rob says, thank you. Yes, he says, thank you. Well, thank all of you. Jennifer says, Lilith is showing through me so much, most elevated planet. I can understand that Lilith is working through a lot of people right now because of the wound that Chiron has already opened. But just remember, you standing in your truth is you standing in your truth. You don't need to get angry to stand in your truth. Sometimes you really have to because people will not hear you otherwise, but sometimes you don't. Ultimately, it's that raw sense of being that Aries is asking you to uncover, and sometimes you need to first accept what your being is. Is your being entitled? Is your being privileged? Is your being blind to suffering? Is your being just unable to see other people standing in a situation where you want to be? I mean, the most recent toxic encounter I had was, like I was talking about this white anthropologist, and the more she spoke, I realized it had less to do with what I was saying and more to do with the fact that it was me saying it. That's also one of the triggering mechanisms, that sense of entitlement that says, well, it should be me. Well, if it should be you, you should have done it, not me. That'll be my response to that. Um, Sunny Flowers, is becoming triggered necessary for spiritual growth, specifically in reference to what you've been experiencing via Facebook, in which you've been following? Well, this is the thing. I don't think being triggered is necessary. It would be great if it was completely eradicated and people could just think about things and go, yes, you're right. But people are not intellectual animals, no matter how smart they are. Doesn't matter if they have a PhD or a professorships or a master's. People are, at the end of the day, deeply, deeply emotional beings. And the most emotional beings are the ones that pretend to be the most intellectual. But when we actually, a trigger is not a bad thing. A trigger actually just asks us to open our eyes to truth because it makes us feel uncomfortable. I would say at this current stage in human evolution, it is absolutely necessary because the universe has been screaming signs at us. And until we feel the boot up in the bum, we're not actually going to move. So at the moment, yes, is absolutely yes and necessary, because this is the critical time and the universe is kind of flat out giving you nice little signals. She's just kind of done with it, going, you know what, pow, work with it. Christine Buckingham asks, are Black Moon Lilith and Lilith equally important in tropical astrology? Well, they are different. I remember reading years ago, there are three Liliths actually. I forget the actual website, but there are three Liliths in astrology, and someone put it into the maiden mother crone system. And I believe, if I recall correctly, Black Moon Lilith was very much the crone, and Lilith this normal Lilith, not Black Moon Lilith, was more of the, I guess, the maiden. But the way I understand it is, Black Moon Lilith is very much when those wounds that have been sustained through exclusion, through gaslighting, through trauma, over and over and over again. Those wounds have gotten so deep, they are now a scar or a scab that you think is you. It's when those wounds have kind of reified and ossified. That's the way I see it. And Lilith is a lot more, it's a lot more current, it's a lot more sexualized. Lilith, in fact, is in Sagittarius right now, very close to Mars. And I would say it's also about exploring different aspects of the feminine that have been suppressed or projected upon. But there's something about Lilith that feels less jaded than Black Moon Lilith. That's how I would see it, at least. But I do recommend looking up the three Liliths online. You can Google it. Solitary empath says she is experiencing negativity with their elderly father. He curses people for the most ridiculously minor things. His mother kills people as well. How do you clear this, and is it up to you to do it? Okay, oui. When you say curses, are you talking about like pins and needles type curses, or are you saying verbal curses? I would say you can't clear this all the time. Um, what you can do is you can work with the facilitator to very clearly indicate that you are not, in this sense, responsible for these actions, and you are also not responsible for the backlash that comes from them, because at the end of the day, free will. um, I would actually say what you would have to do is, in that case, at the very least, energetic distance. At the very least, energetic distance. You need to actually speak to your guides to ensure that you are not being used as the sponge for the negative karma of those curses to travel through the back doors of family lines. Stella Yoga Arts sends folded hands. Okay, Reverb says Hoponopono meditation, here we go, would help. Solitary empathy and to send positive energy, that can help, but I would say karmic negotiation to ensure that you are not condoning this, nor is this your responsibility. Lovely Sky Dancer says, I think triggering is necessary for a person who's in denial. Well put. Stella Yoga Art says, I have Uranus in the second house and my relations with my children is not good. What can I do? Honestly, honey, that depends on what's in your fifth house, not your second. Um, I would say, yeah, that one's too vague for me to answer. I would need more information on you, the kids, and everybody's charts. But if you can tell me what your fifth house cusp was, that would help. Angelina says, I have Lilith in my X1th house. I'm guessing you mean 11th house. Okay, cool. Let's see. Oh God. Okay, solitary empath. How effective is he at his curses? Are we just talking about someone saying it or someone actually doing it? 305 Capricorn asks, have you spoke on the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction happening this year? Not yet. I'm honest, I have not done the overview of the year simply because I've been preparing everybody since December for January, and frankly, I think the energy of January needs to end first. There's just been such a huge energetic impact, and we need to at least let that wave of energy end before we go looking into other things. That's the way I feel about it. As soon as I feel that the wave has kind of come to a close, I'll talk about it. Jennifer Wilson, how can I know if I'm at a spiritual place where I can work or she can work with me? I do sessions with kids, honey. It's not about how much courses you've done or how many retreats you've gone through or how many years of meditation you've done. It's nothing like that. Ultimately, a person can work with me if they are willing to hear, if they're willing not to project, and if they're willing to also, at the same time, really feel into what is true for them. And it's not about here, it's about here, which is why I can talk to anybody who's willing to listen. So that's what I would say. Okay, solitary empath. Yeah, he has heart failure, and the nurses called me to attend to him. You know what you could do? You could actually call upon angels to ask that these energies be neutralized in a way that isn't interfering with his karma or yours. That you're actually just asking for protection on the behalf of those who are being cursed. That might actually work better. Just ask for angelic intervention and protection from those who are being targeted. But do take a step back away from this, because that is not your thing. All right, so Stella Yoga Art says Leo in my second. Okay. Oh, I see. That's why you brought up the kids. Leo in your second, Scorpio in the fifth. Let me just think about that. Well, depending on the kids' charts, what that would usually, and here I'm extrapolating a lot, what that would usually mean is kids who need a safe space to go, or rather, you would need a safe space to go into more deeper. Wow, I can zoom in. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. I didn't know I could do that. Haha. Okay, so like I was saying, so that would basically mean you need a safe space where you can actually go into whatever deeper energies, whatever deeper, darker, more complicated energies were coming up. With why? How's this happening with you and your kids? So this is the kind of energy that actually means that whether or not you like it, you might end up triggering them into looking at the things that they don't want to look at, or maybe they're not ready to look at. It depends on the age of the children. So, especially with Saturn and Neptune in the mix, it's a very heavy karmic contract with the kids. So, I think you need to recognize that, or you could recognize that there's probably a very heavy amount of unconscious triggering that's happening. And if you can find those patterns and work through with them consciously, then you can make it work. And if you can't, um, again, a bit of space might actually go a very, very long way. When you got Uranus, Saturn, Neptune in the second and the fifth houses with Leo and Scorpio, you need to give them space. It all depends on how well they can take the energy. Okay, Heyoka says, hey, Heyoka, right back at you. Kayoya, do you think it's not possible to get an accurate birth chart without a time of birth? No, you can. There's actually something called chart rectification, and you can absolutely get a fairly accurate birth timing without the time being given. It just means that you would need to book a longer session with whichever astrologer you worked with because it takes time to do that. What does Mars conjunct Venus in Aqua a 0 degrees mean for Saturn and Jupiter conjunction this year? This is from Apollo Singh. Oh, nice name, Apollo Singh. Honestly, it depends on the house and it depends on the rest of the chart. But that it long story short, it means that you could actually create something quite powerful, something that brings people together in powerful ways, men, women, people of different genders. It's about, but maybe it's creating an institution, maybe it's about being a benefactor. Depending on where it is in your chart, maybe it's about receiving that benefaction from someone else. And it's also about really marrying your desires and your actions together in harmonious ways before you share it with others. 3 or 5 Capricorn. What does it mean when there aren't any planets in a house? This is a lie. It is a lie. You see, there's more than 20,000 bodies that could be used in astrology. We just look at very, very few of them because otherwise the charts get really full. Like when I work with a client, I work with 150 bodies. There's always something there, honey. It might not be a major planet, but there is always something there. It just means that unless it's a very significant asteroid that is literally writing your life from the back doors and you're not seeing it, most of the time, if there isn't a major planet there, there's always something minor going on with it. But it just means that the focus of your life isn't immediately thrown there. That's all it means, I would say. Diane's Langford, I keep getting triggered, pissed off with the people I work with, all none awakened. It feels like they're trying to prove themselves as superior. It's pathetic. Honey, I just got called, what was it? An ape who is genetically inferior and a slave. Seriously, I hear you. This is the way people are now. They are literally playing these ego games. Unless it is something that will make a difference, ignore it. I know a lot of people tell me to ignore what comes my way in terms of my work, but that's literally my work. I am here to be seen doing this work. But in your case, depending on what you are doing, see if it's actually worth the effort or not. Just focus on stay in your lane, do the thing that's truly most important to you. Christine says, she remembers me once asking us to be surrounded by protective golden source energy that can help But honestly, in terms of your case, solitary empath, I would say working with, if you work with this tradition, calling upon the energy of Metatron, Metatron. It's a good reminder from Christine. Thank you. Kat says hello and thanks for all the work. No worries. Um, oh, I didn't know you could make donations to a live chat. Well, if you guys, if, I do not know how to pronounce his name, Lila. I'm just going to say Lila wants to make a donation to me. That is so welcome because, like I said, no savings, no house, nothing. Potentially sick cats, one we know confirmed and the other one we don't know yet. So if you guys did want to make a donation, you can do so by just going to paypal.me/the sky priestess. That's paypal.me/the sky priestess. It's all one word. You gotta have the there. So that's what I would say. Thank you so much. Um, let's see. Uh, Jennifer, thanks for difficult message. I did not see that about myself. Honey, I'm not talking about you specifically. You asked me a key question. It's a general answer, so I don't want you to take on board anything that is not yours. Karen says she feels all of the energies very strongly no matter what is going on. I can understand that. Apollo Singh, third house, and thank you so much. So accurate to what you said. No worries. Ultraviolet sends me hearts. Hello. Stella Yoga Arts, Chiron and Kedu in 12. What's going on here? Honey, get a reading and find out. Eugene, I'm at work now. I ignore it. Headphones are on. They are tuned out. Why are you watching a live feed if you're ignoring it with your headphones on? I don't get it. Maybe you can rephrase. Um, yeah, but I think I've caught up with all of the comments. Anybody else? Any other key questions? Key questions, key questions. Chup, chup, chup. Here we go. Cat. I feel like I'm trying to shed narcissism, particularly to shed. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, no, that's really good. I mean, you don't get this kind of question. So, Kat says, I feel like I'm trying to shed narcissism, particularly to shed entitlement programming and being special. Any advice? Okay. I appreciate you, Kat Henderson. I really do. Because unfortunately, people have built an entire spiritual subculture and a big booming business convincing everybody how they are the most important things in the world. And I am so, so grateful and happy to you and others who feel like you because you're asking the right questions. And that's wonderful. That's really good. The thing is, we are all special, but we are all insignificant at the same time. So let's say tomorrow I decide I want to leave the planet. I go, okay, whatever, goodbye. Is there going to be another sky priestess? Maybe not exactly like me, but of course there's going to be someone somewhere who's doing something useful. And if I were to think about it that way, I kind of go, okay, I might be doing something important and that is unique in the way that I'm doing it, but it is ultimately replaceable because the universe has always got many, many, many different players to play certain roles. The only thing that I would say we can hold on to in terms of our uniqueness is the way we are expressing or working with energy. But that doesn't need to be something that is put on a pedestal because everybody is unique in exactly that same way. So that might be a way to actually get out of that type of thinking. When you put down someone's uniqueness, that is when there is a problem. When you feel that your way of uniqueness is absolutely the very best and better than everybody else's uniqueness, that's a problem. But if you can celebrate what you do and celebrate people who do what they do without seeing it as competition, that's good. I would say that's a very good starting point, and I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Stella Arts, coronavirus. Well, I've been following it. I finally turned on the TV for the first time in about 6 months. That's how busy I've been. And I see coronavirus everywhere, and I'm like, shit. But I believe, if I recall correctly, I think the mortality rate is something like 2%. So, if you guys, if people take decent and adequate precautions. I think most of us should be okay. Obviously, you need to have even more precautions if you're immunologically compromised. And I think the flu is actually killing more people in, especially the United States right now. So, it's like this is the whole weirdness. It's one thing after another thing trying to make people scared. Honey, we could fall down and die just slipping in the bathtub if we were to worry about each and every single thing like this, and every single wave and plague would be that much easy, that far more easily controlled. And that's the whole idea. Take your precautions, take your colloidal silver, far more easily controlled. Okay, let's see. Da, da, da. Lakshmi says, thank you, most welcome. By the way, if you guys have, some place to be, when I say guys, I'm talking about everybody. I might even call my computer a guy, so it's not a gendered thing. So if you guys have a place to be, feel free to just say ciao. This is just like a chat. So, Angelina, I adore you. Thank you very much. Lila, I came late. Did you already talk about the feelings of fear that seem to be popping up for a lot of people? I've noticed a lot of people diving into depression and fear, including myself. That is part of Black Moon Lilith. People are just bringing up a lot of their shadows through a lot of their ego. Remember, ego doesn't always mean I'm egotistic. It also just means the larger ego complex. A lot of fears are getting stirred up right now. A lot of vulnerability is getting stirred up right now. Kaoya, could feeling dizzy have a spiritual connection, especially with Black Moon Lilith in Aries, which focuses on anything above the neck? If you're having dizziness and headaches, that can certainly be a part of it. Karandia, in the United States, over 8,400 people have passed from the flu this season. What is the difference in the skies that this is being ignored? I don't think it's being ignored so much as people are being saturated. I'm sure that the people who are working on vaccines or trying to control public health or whatever that they're doing, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with any of them. I find the global management of health issues quite troubling, I should say. I mean, they're idiots who are telling people to drink bleach. I mean, for fuck's sake, that's ridiculous. But, see, that's me getting a bit annoyed. um so yeah, what is the difference in the skies that's being ignored? Honestly, I would say Neptune probably has something to do with it. I suspect Neptune, I really do. And Neptune, I think, is still in a fairly strong aspect of the great attractor. That would be my first port of call. Apollo Singh, can you write your PayPal in the comments? Can I? Hang on. Let me see if I can type while doing this. I can't type while doing this, but as soon as I end this live video feed, I will type it. Let me just see if I can try. Uh, hang on. Just bear with me. I don't know how to type on this thing. Sorry, I don't know how to type on this thing. No, I will say it again, and I will also put the PayPal link in the final version of this, which will pop up. It's www.paypal.me/the Sky Priestess. One word. Reverb says, thank you for asking, Apollo Singh. Reverb says, I was put down my whole life for my uniqueness, and now I'm taking my power back. Good job. Ryder says, do you do Vedic or tropical? Are you familiar with both? Where and does Vedic help understand where we are as a soul, or is this better for evolutionary astro? I'm going to say something that's going to piss off a lot of Indian people. I grew up with Vedic astrology. I did not find that it worked for me. It was not able to predict my very weird life. So when astrology came to me, I should say, tropical was what fit for me. But some people really love Vedic, and that is okay. Ultimately, I think you need to go with the system that works for you. And I have issues with the Vedic system because I find that the interpretation that's given, especially with traditional Vedic astrologers, it's very narrow minded, it's very ritualistic, it's very paternalistic. So if you can find a really good Vedic astrologer who can use the techniques and use the tools outside of a very oppressive cultural interpretation, then you have a far better chance of getting something that is more useful to this evolutionary time. Also, traditionally speaking, the Vedic system does not have outer planets like Pluto, like Uranus, and so on and so forth. So traditionally, they do not have the tools. But people expanding on the Vedic system have, of course, started interpreting and expanding on this interpretation. Look at it Don't buy into anything that doesn't resonate with your soul. What I would also say is a lot of people who then come from the other side saying tropical doesn't work for me often ignore the fact that people move through different stages of life and different ways of looking at charts. Remember that the natal chart is never the end all be all. There's the progress chart, there's the relocated chart, there are the harmonic charts. There are so many astrological tools that exist. Okay, Solitary says coronavirus is a distraction. Honestly, I'm kind of inclined to agree. Ryder says up your immune system. I agree. Karen says up to 28% of deaths happen in the bathroom. Oh God. Solitary Empath says their guides told them that the negative energy finds us through fear. I agree with that. Oh God, 3 or 5 Capricorn, why are you asking me this question? My thoughts on vaccines, especially on children. Let me put it this way. I'm more likely to get if I had a child right now, I would be more likely to get a vaccine in Malaysia than I would in the United States if it was absolutely mandatory. Just because I think there is an agenda going on there that I don't trust, but I don't think the idea of a vaccine is in itself bad. I think that if you add all kinds of weird shit to it, that doesn't make sense. That's probably just going to make people sick. But that is my personal view, and I am paranoid about these things. Angelina says it's population control. She's referring to coronavirus, quite possibly. I do not know yet. Okay, Cosmos asks, do I work with nakshatras? See, my relationship with the Vedic system is despite the fact that I don't intellectually use it, if I really need to know something through the system, it will come and tell me. So if I need to know, it will come and tell me. Kayoya says, is there something I need to do when I experience a dizzy spell? Um, First, figure out if it's a psychic attack or not. Otherwise, figure out if you just need more sleep or more water. And if it's nothing like, if it's not a psychic attack, if it's not dehydration, observe it and see where it leads you. Angelina says 13 zodiac Ophiuchus probably spelled it wrong. Okay, this is a good question. Now, see, the whole 13 zodiac thing is a lot. I know a lot of people enjoy it, a lot of people work with it. Again, you look at the system that works for you. It doesn't work for me because the astrological boundaries of delimitation were changed very, very recently. So this isn't something that's an old or traditional system, which maybe means it's better, but it when I looked at it and when I looked at what my signs and what my chart would be, it didn't fit for me. So if it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to use it. If it works for you, go right ahead. Apollo Singh, do I do personal readings? Yes, I do. The place to book for readings is www.theskypriestess.as.me. So it's the sky priest. It's www.theskypriestess.as.me. The sky priestess as me. It's just got dots in between, and I will also put that up in the comments, or you can just Google me and you will find my page instantly. um, Angelina says, you wonder, I do not know. When it comes to Ophiuchus, I do not know. What I would say is that whilst I'm not going to say that everything that came from traditional systems is great, I'm going to say that it does, the 13 system for me at least does not model reality accurately, which is of course going to piss off a lot of people, but you know what, you can only go with what you experience as true. So for me, for me, astrology is like a different set of like colored lenses through which you see the world. Some people are going to want a red lens, some people are going to want a blue lens, some people are going to want a pink lens. It depends. If it helps you see reality better, use it. And for some people, I flat out tell them, get out of astrology. It's going to drive you nuts. Because for some people, astrology as a modality is completely inappropriate. So really, no comments on why one thing works and why one thing and another thing doesn't work. Everybody's different. Everybody is different. So yeah, I would say that's about it. Hopefully everyone can understand and see and hear where I'm coming from, and I hope this live check-in has been useful. I can't do this too often just because it takes a lot of energy. There's one of me and a lot of you, so I've done my best. So you take care, everyone. Lots of love, very, very many blessings. Remember that you can book a session at www.theskypriestess.as.me, or you can also send me a donation or contribution if you want at www.paypal.me/theskypriestess. Yeah, that's about it. You are, all of you are most very welcome, and I hope you will move through this phase and move through this journey with grace and ease, and do not be afraid to be your righteous badass warrior, whatever people are calling itself, when you need to be, because that's also a part of you. Take care, many blessings. Ciao ciao for now. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.